it's Dr. Swanberg. We're going to be talking today about topics, main ideas, and details. These are the levels of specificity in the things that you read. And this is really a review of skills that we think you probably already know, so we're going to go through them relatively quickly today. Okay. Basic rundown of what topics, main ideas, and details are. A topic is really the most general way of saying what a reading is about. A main idea is the lesson or takeaway from the whole reading, what the author wants you to know or think when you're all done reading. And details are what help the reader understand the main idea. They're the reasons the person has the main idea, or the points they raise, or the examples they use. There are two levels of detail. The major supporting details are their reasons or the big points that they raise. These might be chapter headings, they might be bullet points that get brought out. They might be, and then there are the minor supporting details. And minor supporting details are the examples that bring those points or reasons to light. So let's take another way of looking at it. We've got a little flow chart here with the levels of specificity. At the most vague, at the most general, we've got the topic. And let's say our topic today is frogs. Now you can have any number of main ideas if you're writing about the topic of frogs. One book might talk about frogs being good pets, another book might talk about frog anatomy, and each piece of writing is going to have its own main idea, but the topic is more general than that. The topic is kind of like, what part of the library would you find this book in? Okay. The main ideas are still general, but there are things like, what's the main thing the person wants you to know when you're done reading? In one, it could be frogs make great pets, and the other, it might be frogs are really gross. If we had a third here, it might be why we dissect frogs in biology class, etc. So I just did two here. Then you have major supporting details. Let's say you've got two major supporting details for frogs being gross. Maybe they're slimy and they're stinky. But then you need minor supporting details. What does it feel like to feel a slimy frog? What exactly do you mean by stinky? Well, here I've got as a minor supporting detail, their aquariums smell like mold. I don't even know if that's true. I'm making this up, but you get the idea where it goes from topic, which is this frogs in general. The main idea is that I want to convince you that frogs are gross. I have two major points. They're slimy and they're stinky. And then the minor detail says something specific about them being stinky. The same would happen for a piece that I was writing with the main idea that frogs are good pets. It's still about frogs, but it's a different main idea. We've got three major supporting details for this. They don't have fur, they're easy, and they're quiet. So we have the topic of frogs, the main idea of frogs are good pets, and then some major points about that. No fur, they're easy, and they're quiet. And then let's take their easy and see some minor supporting details for them being easy. You don't need to walk them like you walk a dog. You only need to feed them once a week. It takes them a while to gather all the crickets you stick in their cage. Whatever those specific details are that make it come alive. So we go from the very, very basic to the very, very specific when we go from topic to main idea to major detail to minor detail. Topics, again, are the most general level. The title of a reading often tells you the topic. The topic is usually best expressed in a short phrase or a few words. A topic is not an explanation. That's more what you're going to get with the main idea. It might help to think of the topic as a section of a bookstore or a library you'd need to go for the reading. Is this computer science? Is this biology? Is this fiction? You know, what are we talking about here? What's the big topic? Okay. A main idea is the main thing that the author really wants you to know when you're done, with no doubt in your mind that that was their point. Okay? The main idea of a reading or a paragraph inside a reading is that there's one main idea and all the other ideas are connected to it. So for any given paragraph or any given chapter in a book, there's just the one main idea. Let's take a look at this chapter in The Art of Critical Reading. The main idea is main ideas. The chapter on inference, the topic is inference. The main idea is how do you make inferences and understand inferences. Okay? So the main idea is the one thing the author hopes you remember when you're done reading. The main idea can be expressed anywhere in a paragraph or a longer reading, but it's usually or often located right at the beginning. If you're writing and you're a beginning writer, you want to put your main idea right at the beginning of a paragraph. The main idea is sometimes not stated directly, but may be implied. You sometimes have to figure out the main idea for yourself, and we'll take a look at an example of that in a minute. All of the details in a reading connect to this main idea, and there can be more than one main idea for a topic, but never more than one idea for a reading. So each paragraph has just one main idea. Each novel has just really one main idea that the person is hoping to get across. Major supporting details are a point that proves the main idea is valid or a reason the author believes in the main idea. There are usually just a few major details in each piece. Major details of a longer reading may each have their own paragraph, or may be subject headings in a chapter, or maybe chapters in a novel. Major details may be bullet pointed or listed in a reading, or separated out in some way to show that they are major. You might say, I have 3 reasons for not wanting you to borrow my car. The main idea is don't borrow my car. And then your 3 major reasons might be you don't fill it up with gas, you've got a terrible driving record, and I don't like you. So those are your main reasons. Okay, and those would be your major supporting details. Minor supporting details give the reading personality. They make the point seem valid or real to the reader. So a minor supporting detail might be a personal story, a little known fact, a statistic, a chart or a graph, a quote from an expert, or even an illustration. If we're going with the example of, no, I don't want you to borrow my car as the main idea, and I say that one of my main points is that you've got a bad driving record, then some of my supporting details might be that you've got 4 outstanding traffic warrants, that you've got 12 speeding tickets, and I once saw you run a stop sign right in front of a school bus. So those might be those minor supporting details for that major supporting detail of you've got a bad driving record. Okay, let's take a look at a sample paragraph. Let's read it together. Most teenagers and young adults do not know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. It is a big decision. There are a number of things you can do to narrow the choices. For example, you can take an interest test, do some research on your own about a career, try volunteer work in the field in which you are interested, or job shadow, in which you spend a day with a person who is working in a field that interests you. These are just a few helpful ideas as you begin to choose a career. Now let's take a look at this. The topic here is choosing a career. Short phrase, very general. The main idea is highlighted in yellow. Most teenagers and young adults don't know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. The major supporting detail really is just that there are a number of things that you can do. And then the minor supporting details are the things that you could do. Take an interest test, do some research, try volunteer work, or job shadow. So you can see that things get more and more specific as you go from topic to main idea to major detail to minor detail. Let's take a sample with an implied main idea. These are a little bit trickier. How far is it to the sun? It's so far that it's hard to comprehend. In actual distance, it's approximately 93 million miles. The distance changes slightly as the Earth travels around the sun. Suppose it were possible to take a jetliner there. Traveling at a little over 550 miles an hour, this would take nearly 20 years to get there. Even if you could travel at 25,000 miles an hour, it would take 5 months to reach the sun. And let's take a look at this annotated. Topic, distance to the sun. That's easy. Main idea, you can't get to the sun, dude. It's seriously far away. And again, this was something you had to come up with here. There's no one sentence in here that tells you that the sun is too far to get to, but that's what you have to figure out. What is this whole paragraph about? It's like, look, you can't get to the sun. It's too far away. Okay. Major supporting details, there are actually 1, 2, 3 of them marked in green here. 3 sentences that represent major supporting details and minor supporting details for each one. So you can see that again, The major supporting details, suppose it were possible to take a jetliner there, has a couple of minor supporting details that go with it. How long would it take you in a jet plane going 550 miles an hour? How long would it take you going 25,000 miles an hour? And once again, we go from the general, which is the topic, to the specific, which is the minor supporting detail. Let's recap quickly. A topic is very general. It's the most general level there is. A main idea is the major takeaway. What's the lesson you're supposed to learn from what you've just read? Details are the reasons or points, and major examples. And then there are two levels of detail, major supporting details and minor supporting details. That's really all there is to it. We're going to have some practices and we'll discuss a little bit more in discussion board. But that is what we are learning this week. Make sure you read your chapter in the Art of Critical Reading. And that's all we got today.